Right. I'll give you a thumbs up. All right. We're just going to wait a bit to make sure everyone gets in here. This is my first. This is my first live. Can someone in the comments let me know if they can hear me all right? Can you hear me? Okay, great. So I came to Hong Kong here just yesterday now with my cameraman from Canada, Efron. We were waiting for riots, as we saw in the international media, and none of them happened, and we were kind of curious as to why that was the case. It turned out most of the protesters who have been hitting the streets for the past 36 weeks have decided to stay in. If they were arrested, they could be detained for up to 48 hours, and they would miss their shot at polling day. So there's been virtually no rioting. I shouldn't say rioting, sorry. There's been no protests. There's been no demonstrations. I don't think that they're riots. Because everyone wants to stay indoors and make sure that they're not arrested. But today is polling day, and what we've seen so far today is that it's been the largest voter turnout that Hong Kong has seen. Over 720,000 Hong Kongers have come to the polls to vote. There's been lines around the block. You'll see the video that we post later today of exactly how long these lines are. They're massive. We've seen some police officers patrolling the lines dressed up in full riot gear. They haven't really caused much trouble, but they've also not seen much trouble from onlookers with Hong Kongers. Actually, they're not actually protesting because they want these elections to go off without a hitch. That's sort of their ethos. They want this democracy to thrive and be successful, so they don't want to interfere in any way, shape, or form. Now, we interviewed, what I thought was interesting is we interviewed a man named Andrew Xu. You can see him in the back there in the green. He is the pro-democracy candidate who actually lost an ear. A pro-Beijing fighter came in and bit his ear off while he was demonstrating with the Free Hong Kong protesters. So he lost an ear, and he is now quite weak. He's running this election as an incumbent, but he's on a bunch of antiretroviral meds in case he got infections. So he's quite weak, but we managed to secure an interview with him, both myself and Avi Yemini. He's with TR News, and he's actually in the area here with us right now. He might come join us on this live stream a little bit later. Now, what's interesting about this election also is that this is the first time that every single district has had candidates, more than one candidate. So there's no acclamations here in Hong Kong right now in the local district elections. The local district elections being pretty much the lowest level of government. There's a fight in every single district, and there's over 400 districts here. Everyone is fighting for their seat. There's both a pro-democracy and pro-Beijing, generally speaking, they're pro-Beijing candidate in every constituency. Now, the news that we're interested in today here as Canadians, and we've been asking many candidates about, is that the new ambassador from Beijing to Canada threatened the Canadian government, saying that if Canada follows step with the United States Congress and passes a pro-democracy, pro-Hong Kong bill in our legislature, well, there will be severe repercussions. And those repercussions weren't clear, but it's a threat nonetheless from Beijing to the government of Canada, saying that we, as Canadians, should not be supporting the democracy, pro-democrat candidates here, which I think is stunning. It's a stunning flex internationally for the people of Hong Kong, for the Beijing government to be telling Canadians that we shouldn't be supporting the people of Hong Kong. But at the end of the day, what do we really expect from Trudeau? From the Trudeau government? He hasn't really stood up to China in any way, shape, or form, even when Canadians' interests are at play. The two Michaels that are being illegally detained for no reason in Beijing, well, he hasn't stood up for them. When it comes to canola exports, the embargo on our canola exports, he hasn't done anything there. There's just been any progress that Canada's had with China has just sort of fallen in our lap. There's pork shortages, and that's why Beijing started accepting Canadian pork, because they needed it, not because of any sort of pressure from Trudeau. Trudeau's limp-wristed when it comes to Beijing. Now, I actually see Avi Yemini. It's interesting here with Avi because everyone loves him. Everyone knows Avi. They come up to shake his hand because Rebel News sent him to Hong Kong about a month ago now, and that was before the protests really got off. It seemed more like a carnival rather than what's going on now. Now it seems much more dangerous. The streets here, I haven't been to a protest myself. There's tear gas. There's real violence, and it's a lot different. It's a much different atmosphere now than it was when we originally sent Avi. But Avi has certainly won the hearts and minds here of the pro-democracy protesters with his coverage that he brought to the world really through Rebel News. So I'm going to bring Avi here. He just walked up to us now. Avi, how are you doing?
There you go, mate. Good to see you here.
Can everyone see Avi? Can everyone hear him all right?
G'day, guys.
All right, Avi, what's your take on what's going on here right now?
It's interesting because I came for Rebel only a few months ago, and the scene here has changed. Back then, it was people remember on Rebel we filmed 2 million people at a mass rally, really calm. Here it seems on edge. Although today is interesting, I feel like people have hope. They feel everything's calmed down. Everyone's given a minute for these elections to play out. People are treating it like a referendum, even though it's just a council election. Really, for us in the West, in Australia, that's like voting the people that pick up your bins. They're not very, but I can see here when you speak to people, they feel like this is their chance of democracy. This is what they're fighting for the right to vote. And they feel that if the pro-democracy camp win, it sends a message to everybody that this is what we want. This is what Hong Kong wants. Which is true.
You and I were having a conversation earlier that the protesters, they have the 5 demands, right? They want amnesty for all arrested. They want universal suffrage and all these sort of things. That's all great. But at the end of the day, at 2047 is what everyone calls it here. Yeah. There's an expiration date on democracy in Hong Kong. It's an existential threat to the people of Hong Kong, but it doesn't seem like they're super concerned about it.
I think people are concerned about it, but they're kind of blasé about their answer because no one knows. No one knows what it means at the end of the deal. And it's interesting. You get different responses. You get, some people acting like, well, that's so far away. We've got immediate issues. Yeah. We're not going to last that long, so it doesn't matter. You got other people saying, well, we'll think about it closer to the date. You got people going, well, I don't know. That's the deal, and we're expecting that they'll just re-sign us up to it. Which, knowing China, I highly doubt if there's a way to get out of a contract, they're going to be the first.
Yeah, we were speaking with a actual candidate here. One of his staffers said that the only person that really knows what's going to happen is Xi Jinping himself, and he called him Winnie the Pooh. The only person that really knows what's going to happen is Winnie the Pooh. If I was in Hong Kong and if I knew, because in Canada you might go to an internet cafe and your subscription to the internet might expire in a few hours, but you can just go repurchase that subscription. Here, there is measured in years a very definitive time when the people of Hong Kong will lose access to the internet as they know it. I don't understand why that is not one of the 5 demands.
100%. It's I don't know, you see that people here are so honest, and I feel like it's their culture, and they feel like we've got this contract and we want to honor this contract. And the reason why the whole 5 demands started, this whole protest movement started, is they feel like China breached the contract. Mm-hmm. So the majority of people here are going, we just want the fair agreement that we had to continue. Mm-hmm. And that's why my personal opinion is I feel like they're not arguing to change it or after that date, because they feel like, well, like any other contract, like when you rent an apartment, then after that you should be able to, sign up for another 100 years to the same agreement, mm-hmm. which for me, from an outsider's perspective, who doesn't come with that trusting culture, I question everything. I look at it and say, mate, there's no way they're going to sign up to it again. That should be the first thing they're fighting for. Mm-hmm. I would expect a lot more people fighting for independence, but they're not. They're not. When you talk to people on the street here, they want their basic human rights, and that's all they're willing to stop the fight at that.
Yeah. We were actually just speaking with police officers here, and it's certainly interesting seeing the difference between, a liberal democracy like Australia and Canada. During our elections, maybe the police officers will show up at the poll if there's something going on. But here, there was lineups in one polling station. There was a lineup of riot police just ready to go.
Full gear.
Here we saw one, a high-ranking police officer. It was very interesting. He was actually British nationally.
30 years been here, signed up to the force. Saw an ad in the paper 30 years ago in Britain. Signed up. He seemed like actually a decent guy. Gave us a couple of words.
But what did he say when you asked him about the police, the well-documented police brutality?
Just allegations.
It's just allegations, he said.
Yep. But to be fair, look, that's a talking point.
Yeah.
He obviously has to push. He did seem like one of the good guys. I'm sure there are good guys in the police force, but they're controlled by a greater power. And two things I know for sure right now, right here, is that China does control what happens here, and Epstein didn't kill himself.
What do you expect for? I mean, you know what? That it's funny that well, it's not really funny that you say that, but the idea of suicides here in Hong Kong is a serious issue, because the police are saying that a lot of suicides are happening. It's very similar to this Epstein didn't kill himself thing. We know that he didn't kill himself, and we also know that many of the pro-democracy activists who have fallen off of buildings with their pants at their ankles, we know that they didn't kill themselves either. So it's interesting that you say that.
I was just trying to be Avi Yemini to throw a joke in there, but
but it's a serious issue happening right now. Is that a lot of people are dying. This isn't the Hong Kong that many people would remember. There's a large contingent of Canadians here, over 300,000, and they've been saying that this isn't the Hong Kong of 20 years ago. No. This is a Hong Kong where political dissidents are dying. Political dissidents are being put in trains to places where nobody really knows where they're going.
Yeah, and Hong Kong was such a special place because it's a place where you and the Western culture really blending and working well together, bringing the best of both. To be honest, I really enjoyed their culture here, and just to see it all erode, and to see the world let it happen.
Yeah.
When people say this is not our problem in the West, I think it is, and I think that candidate we spoke to just before, both of us spoke to him, makes a good point that this is actually an international city. Mm-hmm. This is our problem.
Yeah.
And whether you think it's because the fight is here and it's coming to us next, that's a valid point. Coming to us next, that's a valid point. But also because this is an international, Hong Kong is kind of all of our city. If you're British, if you're Western, if you're part of the Commonwealth, and if you believe in democracy and freedom and people's basic human rights, and when you want to see people excel in life, that's what we're about in the free world. You want to see self-determination, people being able to, give it their best shot and make something on it.
Yeah.
This is a place where they execute that. People actually do that. They work hard, they fight hard for them. And now, if we in the West don't stand up for them, they're going to lose that.
Yeah.
For what?
First it's Hong Kong, next it might be Taiwan, and then it's the rest of the world. The red tide of Chinese.
I think Canada's already gone, isn't it?
Well, Canada is gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what is interesting? In Canada, our Minister of Defense actually gave a speech at the Chinese celebration for the 70th anniversary of the CCP. That's Harjit Sajjan from Vancouver.
In Victoria, where I come from, our government's signing a lot of agreements, infrastructure agreements with mainland China. But on top of that, the 70th anniversary, a police station in the state of Victoria raised the Chinese flag.
That is stunning.
There you go.
That's stunning. And you know what? As far as I'm concerned, the United States might be interested in pursuing these free trade agreements with China, Canada as well, for that matter. But as far as I'm concerned, we should be, free trade is great, but it should be free trade with free people. And
it's not worth the price.
No.
That is free trade at a heavy price, and maybe in the short term, it's short-sighted. I think it's short-sighted, Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping Donald and his still up.
So. Thanks, Ron. All right, thank you, Avi.
Thanks, mate. Good to see you guys here.
Good to see you too. All right, so that was Avi Yemini with TR News. He came here just a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, with Rebel News, covering the protests here in Hong Kong. He's been doing great work. We're not sure what's going to happen here tonight. We're not sure if there's going to be protests. I'm sorry for calling it riots. I really regret that. They're not riots, they're protests. We're not sure what's going to happen tonight. We're not sure if there's going to be irregularities in voting here. If there are, protests can start on a dime. Anything can spur them. They can happen anywhere at any time. Right now, our expectation is that there will either be a protest of celebration tomorrow if the pro-democracy side wins a lot of seats, and if something fishy is going on here at these polling stations, well, protests could happen for that reason as well. So I'm going to sign off here. I don't want to talk your guys' ear off too much. We're going to try and do more live streams like this, particularly during, you can see right here actually, Avi's just meeting a supporter. Everyone loves him here. It's great. So we're not sure what's going to happen tonight. We might just do some live streams of just the protest, just so that you can see what's happening as it's happening. I might not even do much talking, but I hope you stay tuned to that. If you want to see all of our coverage that we've done here in Hong Kong, you can go to hongkongreports.com. We are uploading videos all the time, and we're actually going to upload another one right now where we had an interview with Andrew Chu and a complimentary interview, an interview juxtaposed with his opponent, a pro-Beijing candidate. The interview is really interesting to watch because we asked virtually the same questions. Do you support the 5 demands? Do you support democracy in Hong Kong? Do you expect voting irregularities? All these questions we asked both the two candidates, and their responses were very starkly different. So I appreciate everyone who watched today. Stay tuned for more, both live streams and for the videos that we're posting at hongkongreports.com. You can follow me live at Twitter at @TheRealKeean, and you can follow Rebel News on Instagram, where we're also posting what's going on at news.rebel. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I'm going to see if I can end this now.